Constitutional Court has ruled that sections of the Copyright Act are unconstitutional and has given Parliament 24 months to fix it. Meanwhile, visually impaired people may convert written material into accessible formats without permission from copyright holders. Well, let's get more on this somewhat complicated case, and we'll speak to Mr. Jace Nair, who is the CEO of Blind South Africa. Mr. Nair, thank you very much for your time. For the benefit of viewers who may not have followed the trajectory of this case, could you give us just quick background about where we are right now and what the recent history has shown us in relation to the judgment that we ultimately got from the Constitutional Court?
Thank you very much. In 1978 Copyright Act did not make provision for exceptions and limitations that would allow for published works to be transcribed into accessible formats like Braille, large print, or audio for blind and partially sighted persons. We've been advocating and lobbying with the Department of Trade and Industries now for many years. In 2015, the department put out a copyright amendment bill which was tabled at Parliament, and we made inputs into that, and eventually the bill that was presented to Parliament in 2017 and 19 had a section 19D, which made provision for these exceptions that would allow for the transcribing of published works into accessible formats. So the Copyright Act virtually made us as criminals for transcribing material into a format that blind and partially sighted people are able to read itself.
Yeah.
A year ago, we took this matter to the Gauteng High Court, and on the 21st of September last year, the High Court declared that the 1978 Copyright Act is unconstitutional because it deprives or limits the rights of blind and partially sighted persons in terms of freedom of expression, in terms of the access to information, in terms of access to education and access to culture.
Yeah.
That then had to be confirmed by the Constitutional Court, and the Constitutional Court sat on the 12th of May and reviewed that application. And yesterday we were delighted to receive the judgment that the Constitutional Court confirmed the invalidity and unconstitutionality of the 1978 Act and provided some immediate relief by including into Section 13A the exceptions and limitations that would allow us to transcribe materials, and gave government 24 months in which to fix the defects in the Copyright Act so that that would become a permanent feature. If that is not done in 24 months, then the reading in of Section 13A, which allows us this exception limitation, will become permanent.
I see. All right, because that's the element I wanted to come to perhaps towards the end of our conversation, but I'll pick up on it nonetheless. Let me ask a very general question. And there is the reference in the judgment that blind people have been subjected to, and I quote here, a book famine as a result of the unconstitutionality of the Copyright Act. Just in practical terms, how would you translate that into day-to-day reality for blind people? How difficult a journey has this been?
Certainly, the studies that have been undertaken in South Africa indicate that 0.5% of published works is available in accessible formats, and those that are made accessible are done by NGOs like ourselves. Also, you'd find that less than 10% of publishers and rights holders have given us permission in the past to transcribe these books into accessible format. That's why we have such a low percentage of publisher works available. The majority of these works are available in English and very little in the other languages. This therefore limits our access to educational material, to academic material, to research material for students at universities and FET colleges, as well as learners at schools for the blind in the country. This also then limits our ability to access skills and economic opportunities and keeps us subject to poverty. So the provisions that have limited us having this access has led to the current state that we are in. Majority of blind and partially sighted people are unable to go into a library and borrow a book because not all of these things are available at municipal libraries. So the culture of reading and writing is very limited. We also do not have access to international libraries that are online and have accessible formats because South Africa has not ratified the Marrakesh Treaty. The Marrakesh Treaty is an international treaty that enables countries to exchange accessible format books across borders.
Right.
South Africa has said that it will ratify the Marrakesh Treaty only when there is the legislative framework in the Copyright Act that will make provision for this. We now believe that 13A, as proposed by the Constitution Court yesterday, provides this legislative framework, and therefore South Africa should ratify the Marrakesh Treaty, and blind and partially sighted people in this country would have access to hundreds of thousands of books in accessible formats that are available internationally.
All right.
I'll give you an example. We produced the book The Long Walk to Freedom in South Africa in Braille. We were not able to share that with our neighboring countries in Africa or other blind people throughout the world. Yet it is such an inspiring biography of the late Nelson Mandela.
Yeah.
So that has been the kind of book famine that we talk of.
All right.
We don't have access to information, to knowledge, to literature.
Mr. Jace Nair, let me thank you very much for your time and painting the history and indeed the difficulties that have been faced by blind people in this country, deprived of these important works. Hopefully, Parliament will meet that deadline to get this fixed within the prescribed 24 months. All right.